That's my current motivation, is to sort of be more present.
Right.
So building something slowly and being able to be in that moment versus feeling the need to race from point A to point B.
Welcome back to Frederick Advice Givers, episode 192. Joining us this week is Angelique Hoffman with Haven Staging and Styling. I've tried to have Angelique on for about 6, 8, 9 months now. And finally I got her to twist her arm. She has decided to kind of announce what she's been doing on the side for a good friend of ours, Lauren Olson. And recently with myself and maybe a few others, maybe just the two of us, I'm not really sure.
Just the two of you.
Doing interior styling, interior design, what we would loosely refer to in the real estate business as staging, but you do so much more than just staging. You're ready to announce to the world that you're ready to kind of branch out. You still want to be selective. You don't want to do the cookie cutter kind of staging thing.
Right.
So that's the long intro to my friend Angelique. So Angelique, for our audience that does not know you, give us your backstory, you personally. Like, where'd you grow up? What do you enjoy doing in your spare time? Kids, family, all that kind of fun stuff.
Wow. In a nutshell, I grew up in California. I was born in San Francisco, raised north of there. Divorced parents, bounced between the two of them. And then I moved down to Los Angeles, sort of started my adult life, met my husband who's in the Air Force. He was stationed at LA Air Force Base. And I started making our home and falling in love with everything DIY and home inspired, and never wanted to leave the house to go to my waitressing job at the time, trying to find my life. We relocated to Texas, outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I started working for Pottery Barn. And that was it. I fell in love. I loved the culture. I loved the company. Then after 9/11, my husband and I decided to have children. So that changed everything. And flash forward 3 daughters later, who are now 13, 14, and 17. We ended up relocating to Denver for a bit, which was good for my husband's military and civilian career. I did full-time mom gig for a while. And then
no Pottery Barn at this
No
point.
Pottery Barn
Okay.
at that point. I did associate for a little while just because I loved it and I didn't really want to give up the discount and all the cool stuff. But then, 3 kids in 4 years sort of took my time. So then we relocated here to get closer to his parents. They live in Western New York. And then I met a friend. She was a buyer for Nordstrom's. I had the DM position of Pottery Barn, and we started talking about our love of fashion and home and retail, and we started a store. So that was called Silk and Burlap. Okay. And we shut that down for family reasons. Her daughter ended up developing diabetes, and my dad was diagnosed with dementia, and we just didn't know. So
why Frederick? Like, I know you have family in New York.
At first we were kind of looking all over the East Coast to get closer to his parents, which included like Rochester, New York. Right. But there was a good amount of work in this area because he was doing his Air Force work, which is great, being close to DC. And then there's just a lot of aerospace work in this area. So with the balance of civilian and government work, it was a good balance. So he just said 45 minutes, and Frederick just drew me in. I thought it was really charming, and I thought the schools were good.
Awesome. So let's back this up. We've talked a lot of personal, but back this up to a more personal level.
Okay.
What's the last purchase that you splurged on for yourself or your family?
Like a big purchase, like a splurge,
Like a
or just
splurge,
what
like
is the last thing that I bought?
No, not like groceries this morning or toilet paper. Like, have you gone anywhere? Have you bought a new vehicle? Have you bought a new house? Have you?
Not super recently. I mean, we moved into our current house going on 3 years ago.
Okay.
And we renovated it. It's like 95% renovated. Really the only things that are left.
So were you in that same community before you bought this house?
Same school district, yeah.
That's
so we lived in Myersville,
okay,
which is part of the Middletown Valley. So I consider it the same community, but now I don't have the 15-minute drive there and back 50 times a day. So it's much better on me.
You have daughters? You haven't splurged on anything for your daughters?
Well,
I
you know,
you're
the
ready for-
oldest
I know
is
you're
getting
ready for college.
I would say that's the splurge
So
that's
there's-
about to happen. That's a daily conversation, yeah, of, you know, however many thousands of dollars hanging over our head times 3 children.
So Angelique, what hobby or interest could you spend hours doing?
Design and decor and everything related to home and antiquing and vintage finding.
Awesome. Yeah, I know, like the house we're at today, shooting the interview, is a project that we've worked together for the better part of 4 months to turn around from the time.
It started before the kids were out of school and then through summer, through fall.
Yeah, and we did a total redesign, flooring, light fixtures, interior doors, paint, carpet. We did a lot here.
Yeah.
We did a lot. And
It
it turned out well.
I
Turned
like
out
it.
really well. And I, you know, when people are coming through, it's always it's kind of like the, you know, the analogy when you go in and like, you know, what is it when you go to a model home, you know, when you go to a builder community and you go to the model home, and the model home's always, to lack of a better phrase, pimped out. You know, it's always pimped out, and it's got the upgrades and the bump outs and the this and that and the granite and all that.
Yes.
And people always say, well, you know, what can I get this house for? Well, you know, the model starts at 400, but this house is 800,000 because it's all pimped out.
Yeah.
And so when people come through here, they're like, well, how do I get like this? And I was like, well, you know, everything's got price. You have to talk to Angelique about that. But everybody loves it. It comes through, and we have had probably 25, 30 showings at this property and multiple open houses, and not one. And what they really love, like they really love your floor.
I know, I think they're nice.
They really love the floor you
I like
picked
the
out.
wide planks, and they've got sort of an organic sort of,
Yeah, the white oak is, you did well.
thanks.
You have got design background in your blood. You've been doing it for 20 couple years?
Experience-wise, like 24 years, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I don't want to age,
and then
age you too much.
like
but-
I said, yeah, I know. Well, it's there, yeah. And then I also kind of just grew up around it. My dad built movie sets, so he would always come home with cool props, and he was just sort of funky. Like he would hang artwork from a movie on a wall and just sort of mixed it up. And then my uncle owned a cabinet shop, and they were always building stuff. They were building furniture, doing renovations, all that sort of stuff. So it's in the blood.
Cool. What's the drive inside of you? Because you are really an entrepreneur, even from owning a business downtown.
Yeah.
Like you are an entrepreneur. Like what's that drive inside of you? What's that motivation that keeps you going?
I think that is actually a hard question for me to get directly to. I used to have, I think it's
Well,
changed.
you take a long time.
Well,
You
it's
take a
changed
long time to
little
get every
bit.
answer. So
I
there's
think there's a little history there.
Go ahead.
I used to feel that drive. I used to feel that like energy towards really sort of building my career, especially before children.
Right.
I loved the idea of growing up with Pottery Barn and getting promoted. And I think this sounds kind of cliche, but my motivation right now is keeping it real and that balance, which is why I said no at first. This was kind of a test. I like the idea. I love real estate. I love homes. I think each home has a unique voice, and I like being able to really sort of say what's exciting and special about that home. Like I genuinely love it. But I think it's more about quality over quantity. So that's my current motivation, is to sort of be more present.
Right.
So building something slowly and being able to be in that moment versus feeling the need to race from point A to point B. And also my kids are now, we're in the final stretch with my kids, and everybody tells you how fast it goes, and you're like, yeah, poopy diapers and puke, it doesn't feel like it's gonna go fast. And then you blink and they're on their phones and in their rooms, and you get it. So I guess that's my current motivation, is to really just sort of try to have that creative outlet and really feel like I can connect to each project and each person, but to still be present, because I feel like the time is ticking.
So what advice, I think you already did this, but what advice would you give somebody just starting out in business?
Any kind of business?
Any entrepreneur?
For me, I think that it has to be something that you're really excited about. I know that there are some people that love sales and they can sell anything. That's not me. So for me, it's something that you feel passionate about. If you have a personal experience, whatever. I think that when you have your own personal voice, people are connected to that. My oldest needs to write a paper for her English 101 class, and she was trying to decide on a topic, and it's about, something in Frederick County that affects her, but also Frederick County residents. And she was going over topics with her friends, and I said, why do you need to go over that with your friends? You know what personally affects you. And some of them are doing like the opioid crisis, et cetera, which is a real thing, and that's great, and I'm sure they'll learn something. But Lily experienced what it was like for me to take care of my father. So we talked about aging in Frederick County and what is available to senior citizens and what possibly is a need. And so she decided to do that. And I'm excited for her because that paper is going to have her own personal voice. So I guess that's
Very
my
cool.
advice.
I love it. What is something that you have learned in your entrepreneurial journey that you would do different, and or something that somebody told you would happen a certain way, but once you dove into it, it didn't happen like that person said? So either what you do different or something that some advice that somebody gave you that didn't work out like they said it would.
I guess the thing that I think I'll take what I would do different.
Okay.
Along the way, especially, with raising kids and trying to have it all, we started out our business downtown sort of as a part-time, full-time moms doing this part-time thing, and then both became kind of full-time. And I think that's where some of my health issues happen. Is I was trying to be a full-time mom, and I was trying to run a full-time store, and I most definitely was feeling a lot of stress. Oh, and I had to apply for guardianship to take care of my dad because he was too far gone with his dementia to make a power of attorney decision, and had to apply for Medicaid so he could afford his care. So along the way with the stress, I started to doubt myself, and I wasn't really tapped into the process, which is where, it goes back to the question that you just asked, is, keeping your authenticity and being passionate about it and having that voice of what matters. So I started to doubt myself a lot. So if I could go back and have a do-over at that, I would like to take it.
Okay. Angelique, in the last 3 years, what is a choice? And this should be relatively easy, maybe not. What's a choice that you've made that's led you to where you are today in your journey of life?
In the last 3 years.
Could have been buying a house.
Yeah, that one stands out. I'm trying to think of something outside of that, but the decision to move to Frederick, and not to Frederick, sorry, to Middletown.
Do the girls walk to school?
I take them in the morning, but they walk home.
Okay.
And now the oldest, she doesn't
Drives.
like the fact that she doesn't have her own car, but she gets plenty of rides. Yes, she knows people.
Cool.
She knows seniors. That was really a very intentional decision. Like I said, my dad was ill at the time. He was up in Braddock, and I was just driving back and forth. And when I came home at the end of the day, instead of feeling joy that I was home, I felt more stress because the laundry that wasn't getting done. So it was race to get the kids to school, come home, race to walk the dogs, get ready, go to my store, race home at 2 to sit in car rider lines, get the kids home, feed them, take them to sports, take them to more sports, and then squeeze in a visit with my dad on my days off. So I just sort of thought, this is not quality of life. So, and the house that we bought was super different from our Myersville house. We were living in a big Victorian that was built in 1910. And this house was built in 1965. It's kind of a humble ranch with smaller bedrooms.
Right.
And my husband basically was in the car 5 minutes after seeing it and said, there's nothing about the house that I like except for price and location. So kind of talking him into, again, priority is location.
Right.
And the price is a good thing. And can you please hear me out? This is my vision for it. And, can we streamline down and get rid of everything that's not necessary? So
Then you got what you wanted.
it was sort of like we were sort of empty nesting ahead of time, but sort of bringing the kids in with us. So
Okay.
I liked that. It felt good.
Cool. So you were episode 192.
Yeah, okay. My new magic number.
192. I learn and love asking questions. So I learn, take bits of information, nuggets from every interview. I want to flip the script and have you ask me a question. Anything.
Okay.
Business, personal, life.
What's on your bucket list?
My bucket list. As we talked in the pre-interview, my bucket list is to start a new podcast when this runs its course.
You're gonna get to 200?
200.
Okay.
So I'm actually having Annie and Ellie on for the last episode.
Love her.
They'll be my last guest, and then we'll shut it down. So I want to do a podcast that helps focus. I've been trying to find a journey over the last 5 years, basically to help other business owners. Okay, so the idea of the podcast was because of where my real estate business was. I was comfortable enough getting behind the mic and trying to help others kind of find their journey. So the podcast is my way to give back to the business community in and around Frederick. It worked to an extent, okay? And let me tell you why it didn't work all the way. I've found over the years that when you have an audience, be it an organic audience like I have with what I build in my newsletter and my writings every month and my morning musing and everything that I do, when you have consistent, compelling content, the 3 C's, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and I'm not talking about a Walmart or a Pottery Barn, okay? I'm not talking about a big corporation. I'm talking about a Mall and Paul or even a small business like you had. When you can put out consistent, compelling content to that audience, you can have a loyal following, okay? I wanted to do that with the podcast. The issue with the podcast is it's compelling content. There's no consistency behind the interview that you have, okay, with getting your message out there. So it's a one-time, and this is, it's run its course for 192 episodes now. So the next evolution will be basically finding a problem. You come to me and say, hey, Eric, I'm having this issue, and this issue is going to really boil down into one of 4 bucket lists that businesses have issues with sustaining or growing or keeping business. And then from my relationships with the people that I'm going to interview, I can come back to you and say, hey, look, I think I can help you in this area. So that's kind of like my next evolution of what I want to do.
That's cool.
That's the one business kind of bucket list. The other one's travel. Like my wife and I love traveling.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next?
We are going on a Caribbean cruise in April. We did Italy last year. Cruises are actually, the airfare is going to be as much as the cruise. Anything else?
What are you afraid of?
Losing.
Makes sense. Failing.
Losing, failing.
Yeah, I'm afraid of failure. I see it in my girls too, with sports.
Yeah, it's not really the joy. I coach. I played sports. It's not the thrill of winning. It's the fucking pain of losing that really gets at you.
Yeah.
We can keep that fucking in there. That's okay. It's the pain of losing it.
I like it.
Okay. Last 2 questions.
For me?
Yep, for
Okay.
you. What failure or loss, can be personal, can be business, can be whatever you want to talk about here, however deep you want to get. I've had people cry, so we have tissues. What failure or loss has molded you into the person that you are?
I definitely think my childhood molded me into the person that I was. I was pretty independent at a pretty young age, but I don't know that that was a failure.
Well, it's a circumstance. Your parents
My
were.
circumstance, for sure.
What was the loss of a 2-parent household?
Yeah.
Is that what you're
Yeah.
alluding to?
Yeah, my sister and I were, pretty close in age, so we sort of leaned on each other. And then recently, losing my dad, I think, has sort of had me shift gears a little bit in midlife. And I think it's as hard as it's been and as sad as it's been incredibly eye-opening, and I'm grateful to him at the same time. It was an honor. I was also able to learn a lot, especially about forgiveness and ego.
Right.
He hid it from us for a really long time, and he seemed like such a odd person and seemed strange to us. And then when I started putting pieces together, it all made sense. So it was humbling and beautiful all the same.
I know it was a long
It was
A long journey.
It was, yeah. It was a lot to go through.
Yeah. All right, final question.
Okay.
Final Jeopardy. Where do you see yourself in 3 years and then in 10 years?
3 years, I think we'll still be in the Middletown area.
You want to get the girls through school there, right?
Exactly. 10 years, I think I'll be ready to move on. I am enjoying the staging. So we'll see where it takes me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear here. You're not only doing design, redesign, staging, interior stylist, as I like to call it, for real estate agents. You know, you are branching out to help homeowners.
Yeah.
Right.
Work with what they have and maybe give it a freshen up.
Right.
So I'm not a trained interior designer, which I think is important. There are people that have gone to many years of school to know how to work on their programs and all that, and I don't want to take away from what they're doing. Mine comes from years of working in visuals for retail companies, and that's
Right.
where I think it translates really well to real estate because you're selling a product. And so I take my love of design and decor and I really like mixing it up with sort of my knowledge of how to market and sell to a customer. And then just sort of building those vignettes is what I can do then. So I think, you know, if somebody has, they're hosting for the holidays, we can clean out a dining room, do a tablescape, work on shelves, work on vignettes, and really sort of help them edit.
So this will be aired right around the end of 2019. So what's the on trend? You know, I had to get that in there. What's the on trend color? What's the on trend for 2020? What's like coming? What's going to be the hot new look, feel, whatever for 2020? Do you know?
I don't. You know, there's always those predictions and colors of the year. What I'm seeing right now is millennial.
Are blues coming in?
No.
No?
I mean, not for me anyways.
Okay.
Blue's not my color, so if it is, I'm ignoring it. So millennial pink was having a good run for a long time. It's that soft blush baby pink, and so they called it millennial pink for many years. And that's sort of transitioning. The pink is becoming less baby petal soft pink, and it's turning to terracotta. So. Okay. Earth tones are really big right now. Like you're seeing some trends of the 70s. So bohemian, the boho look was really big. And I think that's transitioning out a little bit and getting a little cleaned up. So the sort of warmth of earthy colors of the 70s, but with a cooler sort of cleaned up vibe.
Okay.
So you're seeing things like wood cabinets are back. You know, the all white kitchen to me will never go out of style, but wood cabinets are being done really well where you mix it with the white or with the gray. It's really pretty, it's modern. Painted cabinets like sage green, even like a dark blue or a hunter green are having their moment, so.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed Angelique, my friend, episode 192, Angelique Hoffman, Haven Staging and Styling. And we are out.